Hi, fans. It's Lauren here from Eeez and Beez podcast and Lauren's Murder Mysteries. Today, I am going to be doing the interviewing of our interview portion of this week's episode of Eeez and Beez podcast. With me today, all the way from Fort Collins, Colorado, currently, I have with you Eddie B from the Eeez and Beez podcast.
How's it going? Wow, this is so weird on the other side, as they say. First interview ever on a podcast, and it's my own, so
Yes,
can't beat that.
yeah, I got some good questions for you today. I think
Awesome.
they're gonna be great.
And just so you guys know out there, I have no idea what she's about to ask me. She did this on her own. Obviously, this is our last episode of our first season, year 1, episode 52. We thank all you guys out there that's followed us and stuck with us all year. And for all you new ones, stay tuned. We got some really cool stuff coming up. But I'm going to turn it back over to her, and let's get this thing started.
All right. Question number 1. What or who inspired you to start your own podcast?
Well, obviously, when the pandemic hit, I was the stay-at-home dad with the kids during the school sessions, and ended up having a lot of time on my hands. And I was just listening to a lot of podcasts, especially a lot of wrestling podcasts at that time. But I got to give credit out to Jericho and Conrad Thompson, 2 of the biggest influences, and Jim Cornette, I must say too, that kind of directed me in the route I'm going right now. Of course, with my own flavor. Definitely, as you know, here on the Eeez and Beez, it's a breakfast related, just for the small portion part of it. Nothing too serious on the breakfast front, but I had to have a direction, and it just worked at the time. But honestly, if I had to put my finger, I couldn't do it on one person. I definitely would have to say Jericho, Conrad, Cornette, JR. They all have amazing podcasts I listen to daily, as you know. That's definitely what was the influence. And then, of course, as you know as well, my love in sports. And what better not than to talk about sports and research sports and go to sporting events, so that's why I love this.
Yeah. Why'd you pick pro wrestling along with sports?
I thought it was a different twist. Of course, going into the breakfast theme as well, I was something I haven't seen done. And there's a million podcasts out there. Of course, we're not even a big one. We're still trying to climb as we speak. But I really love pro wrestling, and my daughters, they fell in love with it, and it kind of kickstarted my old love for the sport. Of course, as you know, my very first interview ever on this podcast was my lifelong friend, who I grew up watching and playing wrestling with and everything. So I just thought it would be really cool to kind of mix it up, throw out there not only your everyday weekly sports update, but throw in a little mix of some wrestling and some MMA or whatever's going on. We're not one-sided here on the Eeez and Beez. We'll talk about anything. We'll promote whoever wants to come on this show. So
yeah, absolutely. This is probably the most asked question we get regarding the show. How did you come up with a name for Eeez and Beez?
That's the one I get asked the most. You're right. Eeez and Beez is a couple different forms of how I came up with it. Originally, my lifelong friend Brian, he and I were kind of kicking the can around about this little podcast deal. Honestly, I don't think he was thinking I was that serious about it and I was going to actually pull the trigger. And his name obviously is Brian. My name's Ed, or Edward. And Eeez and Beez kind of just rolled off the tongue to me. But when I finally decided to pull the trigger, I realized that he wasn't, going to be eligible at the time to kind of jump all the way in like I was. So, he was cool with it. I kept the name, and then I switched it up. And like I said, I tried to think of something that isn't out there. And that's where I came up with the breakfast theme, Eeez and Beez, eggs and bacon, baby.
Mm-hmm. Not to be confused with Beez and Eeez,
Yeah.
Breaking and entering.
No, sir. So, no, ma'am.
Yeah. All right. Next question. Who would you love to interview the most on the podcast?
Honestly, I've got a list a mile long. and it could go from each sport basically. But one of the bigger ones that I really hope and hopefully, this will come true eventually is Chris Jericho. One
Yeah.
of my favorite wrestlers, still in it at this time. Like I said, one of my influences of this. I love everything he's into. He's really hot right now. I know he does have some haters out there, but we love him here on the E's and B's. But that would be one amazing interview, I think.
Yeah.
Coming up with those questions, that would probably be the toughest part for sure.
Would you be nervous?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I was nervous doing this interview, let alone interviewing anybody else on here. I have had like 48 guests out of 52 episodes or something close like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm nervous every time, but once I get going, it's just like riding a bike.
Yeah, it is. So you kind of just mentioned and answered this question, but who currently right now is your favorite singles wrestler? Also thinking
Currently it is Chris Jericho, but like as we all know, and we've talked about it here on the E's and B's podcast, he's on his way out. He's definitely not at his prime. I just love the fact that he's 50 years old and still doing it, but he's still very entertaining at it too as well. And anything he touches right now is gold, and that's what I love the most about it. Actually, I'm really digging all the wrestling right now, and there's a lot of young talent out there. Heck, there's a lot of indie talent, people that we've had here on the show that I just can't wait to see what happens in the future. But yeah, if I had to put one, it'd definitely be him.
what about your favorite tag team?
Currently right now, man, that's a toss up as well. I'm huge FTR fans, but Pride and Powerful's got, that feud right there is awesome. That's two teams that I love a lot. So definitely that's who I've been keeping my eyes on. The tag team divisions on AEW, in my opinion, is the best in wrestling right now, and there's not a bad one out there really. So, but if I had to choose one, it definitely probably would be FTR.
Okay, so you kind of just answered the next question again.
Sorry.
Current favorite wrestling show?
AEW
Obviously,
right now. It's just because it's so hot.
Right?
No, it's so hot right now. Brian and I, as I spoke about, my buddy, we go back and forth a lot of times on text message and just comparing, as we've done the E's and B's brunch also on the 1996 Monday Night War series. But it's just it's reminding me a lot of the 96-97 era between WCW and WWE. And right now, obviously, they're getting all the hot signings. We just talked about the big CM Punk signing. Who would ever thought somebody hasn't wrestled in 7 years, who has everything he needs to come back to a brand new company. And now I feel like, the company is going to be on his back and on his shoulders. And that relieves Jericho a little bit, in my opinion. But there's so much talent there right now. They started a new show. So I'm just excited to see what happens. Don't get me wrong, I still love WWE. I just think that right now they're on the struggle bus and they've got to get it figured out. But who knows? We'll see what happens here after what just happened at SummerSlam.
Yeah. Switching it up a little bit. If you could have one superpower, what would it be?
If I could have one superpower, I'm pretty sure somebody said this before here on the E's and B's podcast. I'd like to know what you're thinking. I'd like to read your mind.
Minds.
Absolutely.
It
would help me out in a lot of situations, but
help us all out.
I think a lot more people would be nicer to each other if they
knew
what they were thinking.
Knew what somebody else was thinking and it was negative, be like,
if it's negative though, here's how I look at it. That way you can avoid them, or you can bring some positive into their life, because that's what I like to do.
Yeah, definitely. If you were to start a brand new podcast and ditch this whole idea and theme, what do you think it would be?
Would I be able to stay in the sporting world, or would it have to be something completely different?
Getting out of the sporting world.
Oh man, probably cannabis, because obviously, as you know, that's my other profession, and that's something that I think everybody needs to learn and know a lot more about. My opinion.
Okay.
Just my opinion. Sorry if anybody out there disagrees.
Sounds good. All right. Here's one you like to ask a lot of your interviewees. That you're making breakfast for your favorite sports athletes. Who are you making it for, and what are you making them?
Oh man, well, everybody knows me, especially all my old childhood friends. I'm making breakfast for Dan Marino, no doubt about it, all day, every day. The best there is, the best there was, in my opinion. just my opinion, calm down. But we would be making an all-American home style biscuits and gravy, sunny side up eggs with some bacon and toast on the side, 100%, and chocolate milk.
Okay. You think Dan Marino likes biscuits and
He's
gravy?
gotta. He's the man.
All right. What is your favorite thing about having a podcast?
Learning and meeting new people. The learning part, like I said, we jumped into this thing not knowing anything about it.
Not a damn
Never
thing.
touched any kind of podcast equipment or ever even thought of it. And here we are, 52 episodes in. I can start and finish an episode from beginning to end, edit it, do everything I need. Of course, it's not 100%. It's not the best out there, but we're working on it. I'm not into this to make money. I've been doing this for a whole year, basically to promote people and get people on here. But like I said, to meet new people, that's what I love to do the most. And that's what I do at my new profession as well. I meet new people all day long, every day. And I love that. And I love positivity. And I'm always searching for more.
Yeah, definitely. Okay, another one of your favorite questions. A book about your life is coming out tomorrow. What is your book about and what would it be called?
The book would definitely be about the crazy life story of me and all the ups and downs, and heck, it's not close to even being finished. But the name of it, boy, that's a tough one. Just like everybody says when I ask them,
Yep.
never really thought of it, but I probably would just name it EJ. Of course, if you don't know me that well, or if you do know me that well, growing up as a little kid, all my family called me EJ, and it's tattooed right here on my wrist. So I think that would be perfect in my opinion.
Okay, sounds good. What do you think your favorite sports season is?
That's a tough one too. I love football. I love baseball, but I gotta be honest with you. When racing season starts, the smell of the tires burning and the gasoline. I don't know how many times I've told you, Lauren.
Yes.
If they bottled that up, had that for sale,
They put it in a candle,
we would have it.
Yeah.
So probably racing season.
Okay. What's your favorite sports memory of all time, live and not live? So both live event and
one of my favorite
televised,
all-time live that I actually was involved in was my senior year of high school, winning baseball sectional for the first time in a decade. It was a very, very cool thing. Nobody ever thought we would do it. We had a stacked team. I obviously was not even close to being nowhere near the best player on that team. There was so many studs on that team. But that was probably my favorite sporting memory ever, being involved in that. And being at, man, there's so many. WrestleMania in Indiana, and golly, just any wrestling event I went to as a kid was pretty memorable, that's for sure.
You went to some Pacers games, right?
Yeah, I seen the Pacers knock off the Knicks, and Rick Smith's last second turnaround hook shot. Amazing stuff. I had never seen a crowd that, or heard a crowd that loud, and it was wild. That was a cool event as well.
Yeah. Cool. I already asked that one. So back on the podcast theme, 1 year from now, where do you want the podcast to be? What do you want to be saying 1 year from now?
I would love to be on a network 1 year from now, but let's get honest and be serious about it. I would be happy just to have it 1 year from now. Who knows what the next day will bring, as everybody knows. But I'm just thankful, grateful, and I love you guys so much for all the kind things that everybody's done so far up to this. Like I said, it's not the biggest podcast in the world, but we can sure make it the biggest podcast. And my door is always open here. That's why I always say, if you want to come promote yourself, I'm not out to make money off of anybody or anything. I'm here to have fun, meet people, and learn. And my door is always open. So hopefully in 1 year from now, we'll be having round 2 of this interview.
Absolutely. Speaking of podcasts, what are your top 3 you got going on in your Apple podcast playlist right now?
Oh man, I'm gonna have to say my favorite switch on a daily basis, just because everything's so good, But the three most I'm listening to right now would definitely have to be Grill and JR with Conrad and JR. What Happened When with Tony Schiavone and JR. And I'm going to switch it up. My new third favorite, and I look forward to it every Tuesday, is Door Bumper Clear from Dirty Mo, obviously Dale Jr.'s people, some of the spotters in racing. If you guys haven't heard that and you're a racing fan, go check that out. It's the best racing podcast besides Dale Jr. out there, in my opinion.
Cool. All right. Last question, I believe. Yep. What do you want the final Eeez and Beez legacy to be when it's all said and done and you finally say this is the last season?
Hopefully that will never happen, but if there ever is a final say or a final episode or whatever of the Eeez and Beez podcast, I hope that anybody or everybody that goes back, checks out all of our footage, all of our episodes or anything, when it's all said and done and they're done watching or listening, that they enjoyed it, that maybe we brought a smile to somebody's face, helped them out of the dark hole for maybe a few minutes, or done anything like that possible, because that's what we're here for. We're 100% here for you guys. We're not here for ourselves. Well, we love doing giveaways. We love, being here for the fans. And I hope the legacy goes down in the end as the Eeez and Beez podcast was not only just a good podcast, they were good people too.
Okay. Perfect. Well, until next time. Oh, do you have any questions for me?
My only question for you, what's your thoughts on this year? What do you think?
It was very difficult. It was, like I said earlier in the podcast or later, it was quite a learning curve. We did not know what we were doing.
Absolutely not.
Everybody,
we still don't.
People make it look so easy, but those people have been doing it for 4+ years. The podcasts I listen to, they've started where we started and worked themselves from the ground up.
Just gotta stay constant and stick to it.
It's a lot of work on top of the work we already do. So it's a lot, but it's fun.
Once again, folks, we appreciate you so much. This has been the 1 year episode 52, Lauren interviewing old Eddie B. Thank you guys so much. We love you all. Keep following us, like, share, subscribe. Hey, stay tuned. We got just a little bit more left. You're listening to the Eeez and Beez podcast. Peace.